Hello participants, sorry for the delay. Our webinar on stress management will start in a few minutes. So kindly hold on, sorry for the delay. Meantime, if you participants, if you have any queries, you could access the chat box. Your queries would be addressed.
Sriram? Sriram?
Hello, ma'am.
Kanishka
Hello,
line
சொல்லுங்க
இருக்கீங்களா?
ma'am. Yes ma'am,
Okay.
இருக்கேன் ma'am.
Yeah, actually previously unmute பண்ண முடியலன்னு வந்துச்சு. Only organizers can unmute. அப்படின்னு அதான் செக் பண்றதுக்கு தான் கேட்கணும். Now I'm able to unmute.
Okay ma'am, okay.
Okay. இன்னும் சார் வந்துட்டாராம்மா?
Ma'am, இன்னும் ஜாயின் பண்ணலாம் மேம் சார்.
ஓகே. சரிங்க வரட்டும். சொல்லிட்டீங்களா டைம்?
எஸ் மேம், இன்ஃபார்ம் பண்ணிட்டோம் மேம்.
ஓகே.
Unmuting. Yeah, unmuted. Okay, thank you. So, a very good morning. Would there be an introduction or should I start presenting?
Sir, introduction will be there, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Okay, fine.
Sir, good morning, sir.
Good morning, ma'am. Good morning.
Yeah.
Good morning.
I'm Dr. L. Tulasimini, Program Officer of NSS, sir.
Hello, ma'am. Hello, ma'am.
Shall we start the meeting, ma'am? Okay.
Yes, ma'am, we shall.
Good morning, everyone. Yesterday is a history. Tomorrow is a mystery. Today is a gift. That's why
Sir,
we call it
excuse me.
the blessing. Ma'am, am I
Yeah,
audible?
carry on.
We are so excited to have you all here to participate in our event, ASTRA 2021, the missile to unleash your talents, organized by National Service Scheme, PhD College of Technology.
I take immense pleasure to welcome Dr. Tulisimani, Program Officer of National Service Scheme, to deliver the welcome address.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning, everyone. I extend a warm welcome to all at this webinar on stress management in ASTRA Intercollege event organized by National Service Scheme, PhD College of Technology. I welcome you all. I find immense pleasure in introducing our Honorable Chief Guest today, Mr. Karthikeyaan Shanmugam, BE, ME, MSW, MSc, ME, a psychological counselor in Pugalidam Counseling Center and clinical social worker. Mr. Karthikeyaan Shanmugam is practicing as a counseling psychologist and clinical social worker with 11 years of experience in manufacturing sector, academia, and healthcare sector. His working philosophy is that every individual, family, and organization have their unique strengths and challenges, facilitating them to identify their strength, and by building a nurturing environment, one can witness holistic development at personal, professional, and organizational level. He likes to employ an integrated approach to individual and organizational interventions by using the strategic from psychodynamic, cognitive behavioral, strength-based, and lifespan schools of thoughts. He has a baccalaureate degree in mechanical engineering, 4 master degrees in industrial engineering, social work, applied psychology, and international family studies. Reputed institutes like PhD College of Technology, Coimbatore, Tata Institute of Social Science, Mumbai, and National Institute of Mental Health and Neuroscience and Bangalore are his alma mater. His professional training includes analytical psychology, training at Creative and Experiential Therapy Institute, Singapore. Best Outgoing Student Award for ME program, the first rank in MSW rank, and numerous publications are his academic achievements. At present, he is pursuing his Doctor of Psychology degree at California Southern University, and he is a member of Indian Society for Professional Social Worker. Sir, we are really thankful to him for taking this function in his busy schedule. The presence of such a personality in this pandemic period is a blessing for us. We hope that students are able to seek a little guidance from your thoughts and enlighten their own lifestyle. Sir, we welcome you, sir. I hope you will enlighten the audience with his precious words as we begin this event. Sir, the platform is yours. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for the lovely introduction. Very good morning, students. So it's a pleasant thing to meet you in the morning hour. So we have around 80 plus participants. Great. We'll go ahead with a webinar on stress management. So I'll start my presentation. Okay, my PowerPoint presentation is not visible. I have sent you the PPT. Can you share the PowerPoint presentation because it's not visible on my screen? Coordinator?
Kanishka, are you there, ma?
Yes, sir, we will present it, sir. 1 minute, sir.
Okay, okay, because it's not visible on my share options. So we will start. I will go ahead with a verbal introduction. By the meantime, let the PowerPoint presentation be here. So when we talk about stress management, I think a lot of you might have heard about this word stress management. But it has two things to it, right? It has, just give me a minute. Hello? Okay, fine. What's up now? WhatsApp அனுப்பிச்சுட்றதா ஓகே நான் அதை டவுன்லோட் பண்ணி அனுப்பிச்சுடணும் ஓகே அதுதான் ஆக மாட்டேங்குது பவர் பாயிண்ட் அந்த என்னுடைய அந்த இதுவே ஆப்ஷன்ஸே ஷேர் இதில் வந்துட்டு என்னுடைய பவர் பாயிண்ட் இதுவே அனுப்பிச்சுட்றேன் நீங்க எனக்கு எந்த மெயிலில் இது அனுப்பிச்சிங்களோ அந்த மெயிலுக்கு அனுப்பிச்சுட்ருக்கேன்
Sir, we have received your PPT, sir. We will share it now, sir. Hello, sir.
Yes, sure.
Okay, sir.
Is it visible, sir?
It's not visible to me. Maybe, yeah, it's loading. Yeah, it's there. It's there. Fine. So we all talk about, we might have heard about this word stress management. It's a very commonly used and often heard term. When we look into this term, we have two parts to it. We have stress and we have management. Management, we have a clear idea about the definition for the word management, managing anything, optimally using anything. That is what, or else controlling something. These are the definitions that are ascribed to the word management. But when it comes to stress, do we have a clear idea about the word stress? Yes, you engineers might be knowing the definition of the word stress from a mechanical engineering point of view. You might have heard about this word stress and strain from a very mechanical point of view. But then from a psychological point of view, what is stress? That is what we are going to look into initially. We will have a better idea about what is stress. If we have a better idea about what is stress, then we can go about managing stress. Okay. Let's go to the next slide. So stress, the very simple definition of stress is any change in your life that brings about a physical or psychological strain in you. Okay, we have all experienced stress. I really don't have to give a very formal definition to it. We have all experienced what stress is all about. When there is a stress, say you might be having a job interview, you might be having an examination, you might be having a project presentation, or even within your personal life, there could be a family issue that is going on that is causing some kind of physical change in you, that is causing some kind of psychological change in you. All these things are stress. Stress could be anything for that matter, which creates some kind of physical strain in you or which causes some kind of psychological strain in you. You are in an equilibrium state. Say you are in an equilibrium state, everything is going very perfectly, you are very happy with everything going on in your life. Suddenly there comes a change. The change could be in any form. It could be because of a person, it could be because of a situation. This person or this situation is bringing about a change in your psychological equilibrium. You're feeling a bit disturbed because of that change. That is what we technically call it as psychological stress. It is very similar to the mechanical stress that you talk about in engineering. The metal is perfect. It is in equilibrium. Suddenly a change is induced on the metal and the metal experiences some kind of strain. Similarly, it goes with a psychological stress also. Now, the question that I often encounter when I talk about stress management is, do we need stress? Do we human need stress? If I'm in a face-to-face session, I can ask this question to you and I can expect a lot of answers from you. But then being an online session, I can't expect answers from you. But then do we need stress? The answer is yes, we need some amount of stress, which we call as eustress. Say, assume that you are in a particular class, you have taken a course, on programming, or you have taken a course on OOPS. Say you're going through that course and the professor is not at all evaluating your course progress. Say, நீங்க பாட்டுக்கு கோர்ஸ்ல ரெஜிஸ்டர் பண்ணிக்கலாம், அந்த கோர்ஸ் பாட்டுக்கு போகும், and the course will end without any kind of grading. There is no grading at all in that particular course. You are taking a course which doesn't have any kind of grading. Would you have the motivation to complete that course efficiently? It's a question mark. When there is no evaluation at all, if there is no monitoring at all, then you might not have the right amount of motivation to complete that course efficiently. At the same time, if there are too much of evaluation and too much of criticism while you are going through that course, would you have the motivation to complete that course efficiently? Then that also becomes a question mark. So that is where we talk about the optimum amount of stress. Can you go to the next slide, please? The next slide, please. Yeah. So is stress needed? Yes, we need an optimum amount of stress. If you look into this graph, if you on the far left, you have very low amount of stress. If you have low amount of stress, if there is no stress at all, then you might feel a bit bored, Your morale might be low. You might not feel like involving in that activity at all. On the far right, there is too much of stress. If there is too much of stress also, your performance will be low. You will have a lot of tension. You will have a lot of physiological things going on. You will have a lot of psychological things going on. You will feel very irritable. You won't feel like continuing the task anymore. Whereas in the middle, if you have the optimum amount of stress, you will feel more creative. You will feel more calm. You will feel more motivated. Your energy level will be up. You will be on the toes to complete that activity. So today we are going to see how you are going to manage the unwanted or excess stress that is happening in your life. Yes, optimum stress, you're managing it efficiently. My intervention is not needed. I don't have to tell how you have to manage your stress. The optimum stress or use stress, we call it as use stress, is helping you to perform better. But then what happens when the stress is more? How are you going to manage it efficiently? That is what we are going to talk about today. Now, before going on into stress management, shouldn't you know how your mind works? Shouldn't you know how the machine that you're going to manage works? Say you're going to work on a computer, you're going to manage how the information, if you're going to do database management, shouldn't you know how the database actually works? If you're going to financial management, shouldn't you know how the financial system works? Similarly, if we are talking about stress management, we should get a better idea about how our mind works. So you all have a mind. எனக்கு மனசு சரியில்லை. This is a term that you might have often used. But have you ever given a thought about how your mind operates? Have you ever given a thought about how your mind actually works? Probably not. Probably not. If I ask you how your body works, you would be able to give a better idea. If I ask you where is your ears, you will be able to point out to your ears. If I ask you where is your nose, you will be able to point out to your nose. But if I ask you where is your mind, would you be able to point out where your mind is? The answer is a bit confusing or a bit perplexing, right? Because mind is not a physical organ per se, but then it's a product of an organ. It's a product of your brain. When your brain starts interacting with the environment, it produces certain things which we call as a mind. We will look more into it. Can we go into the next slide, please? Yeah, so we have a clear idea about what our body is. And soul is a very metaphysical thing. When we ask about what we are made about, we will tell, yes, the body is there. நீங்க யாரு அப்படின்னு கேட்டா இந்த உடம்பு. Yes, இந்த உடம்பு இருக்குது. மனசுன்னு ஒண்ணு இருந்துட்டு இருக்கு. That's why I'm talking with you. That's why I'm thinking. That's why I'm able to make all the decisions. That's why I'm able to make all the calculations. That's why I'm able to make all the programming. Yes, I have the body. I have the mind. And soul is a very metaphysical thing. It's scientifically we cannot talk about it. So today we will talk more about our mind. Can we go into the next slide, please? Okay. So I was telling you, when our brain, we have a brain, we have the physical structure called brain within our skull. When this brain interacts with the environment in the sense, it could be people, it could be your computer, it could be your machine, it could be a pet, it could be a car. When it interacts with the environment, it produces certain things which we call as the mind. And these things are what I have listed down here. So the parts of the mind are nothing but your thoughts, your emotions, and your behavior. So it's not rocket science. It's not a very complex thing. So we psychologists, we deal with the mind, and these are the three parts we predominantly deal with. Okay, we have our thoughts. Right now you might be thinking about a lot of things. What is this guy talking about? What am I going to do next? What am I going to do for the evening? So many thoughts could be raising in your mind. You might be having certain value system. You might be having certain belief system. These things come under your thoughts. Okay, whatever we think are our thoughts. And next is our emotions. We have a lot of emotions. We feel happy, we feel pride, we feel sad, we feel angry. we feel frustrated. So these are all the repository of emotions we have. And third is the behavior that we bring about, the mind brings about. Behavior, right now you are sitting and listening to this webinar. You might be sitting in a different posture. We all will be sitting in different posture. And when we talk with somebody, we might be smiling at them, we might be frowning at them, we might be shaking hands with them. These are all our behavior. So our thoughts, our emotions, and our behavior. So if we are going to talk about stress management, my friends, we have to know how our mind basically operates. I will give you one example before going any further. Say 3 friends are there, and these 3 friends have been studying together right from their school days. They all joined LKG together and they all completed 12th standard together. They all come from the very similar background, very similar family background. Their father are all into similar kind of business, and they have a very similar kind of background. And they all, with a lot of enthusiasm, join a engineering college. XYZ engineering college. It's supposed to be a very premium engineering college in India, and they all join the engineering college, and they all pursue the same specialty. They all pursue the same mechanical engineering or computer science engineering. They are pursuing the same specialty, and a professor they all enroll in a coursework, and the professor is giving them a project work. And they are all very enthusiastic about the project work, and they do the project work and they present it on the due date. On looking at the project, the professor is very disappointed with the output. He just throws the project work at the students and tells them, what kind of a project work have you done? This is something that cannot be accepted in our college standard. He just flings it at the student's face, and he just walks away. And all the 3 students are perplexed initially. And the first student starts laughing, and he tells like, this is how professors normally behave. We don't have to give a damn about it. He walks away. He just laughs at the professor's behavior and he just walks away. The second student, he breaks down. He starts crying. He starts crying and he takes the day off and he goes off to his house. He's not staying in the college for the rest of the day. The third student, he calmly picks up the project work and he starts looking into the kind of remarks the professor has made and starts making the correction. Now the question to you is, friends, like, how come 3 people with similar kind of bringing up have different kind of emotions, different kind of behavior? Why did these 3 people have different kind of emotions and different kind of behavior? First person never got stressed. He actually laughed at it and he just moved away. The second person, he became very stressed out. He cried. He couldn't bear the stress. He took the day off and he went off to his house. Whereas the third person, he was stressed, but at the same time, he wanted to work through about why such a remark was made by that professor. So now we have to look into why these 3 people acted differently. This question is coming to our mind, right? Please go into the next slide. This is precisely why. I will decode this picture for you. Basically, I was talking about 3 components in our mind, right? Our thoughts, our emotions, and our behavior. Now let us look into how these 3 things are linked together. Psychologists, over a lot of years of research, they have found that it's predominantly our thoughts which tend to influence our emotions and our behavior. Putting it very simply, how you think is going to influence how you emote and how you behave. நீங்க எப்படி சிந்திக்கிறீங்களோ அதை பொறுத்து தான் உங்களுடைய உணர்வுகளும் உங்களுடைய செயல்பாடுகளும் இருக்க போகுது அப்படிங்கிறது தான் வந்துட்டு சைக்காலஜிஸ்ட். இட்ஸ் நாட் த, yes, your emotions and behavior tend to shape your behavior, but sorry, tend to shape your thoughts, but it's your thoughts that predominantly shape your emotions and behavior. Maybe the first person thought that professors don't have any other business. This is the kind of feedback they give, and we don't have to give a damn about it. If he might have had such a thought, and that's why he behaved like that. That's why he had such kind of emotion. Whereas the second person might have had a very large expectation. His thoughts might have been different, and he got dejected, and that's why he had such kind of emotion and such kind of a behavior. The third person might have had different kind of thoughts, and that's why his emotion and behavior were different. So this is where now we are going to step into the actual topic per se, that is stress management. I hope you have understood how our mind works. I will reiterate it once again. We have a mind. We cannot dispute that, right? We are talking, we are listening because we have something called as a mind. Our nose, eyes, they cannot just like that listen per se. We are listening because we have something called as a mind. And that mind has certain components, and I had debriefed it as our thoughts, our emotions, and our behavior. And I have also deciphered the mechanism about how it works, how our thoughts tend to influence our emotions and our behavior. Now, psychologists over the years, they have identified that we human beings tend to make certain error in our thinking. நம்மளுடைய சிந்தனையில சில பிழைகள் பண்றோம். அந்த சிந்தனை பிழைகள் பண்றதுனால தான் வந்துட்டு நமக்கு ஸ்ட்ரெஸ் வருது அப்படிங்கறத கண்டுபிடிச்சிருக்காங்க. See, like I was telling you, certain changes tend to induce stress in us. Okay, you have a project, you have an examination. All these things might cause stress in you. What can we do when there is a stress? How can we go about managing the stress? One thing is, we can either change the environment or change the stressor. எது உங்களுக்கு stress induce பண்ணுதோ அதை போய் நீங்க change பண்றதுக்கு முடியும். That is not possible all the time, right? Can you evade an examination? Can you avoid a project presentation? No. So what other thing can we do? We can go about changing our mind so that it will adapt itself to that stress. So we only have two options. Either we can avoid the stress, we can change the stress, or else we can look about how to handle that stress. So today we will predominantly see how we can change about our mind so that we will be able to change our stress. Okay, or sorry, how we can go about managing the stress. Okay. So psychologists over the years, they were perplexed. Yes, சிலருக்கு மட்டும் stress ஆயிட்டே இருக்குது, சிலருக்கு stress ஆக மாட்டேங்குது. As I was telling in the example, they were questioning like why certain people are more prone to stress. And these psychologists, they have identified something called as cognitive distortions. Okay, this is a very technical jargon. I will put it in a very simple term. They have identified that people tend to make certain thinking errors. They identified that people tend to make certain errors in their thinking. And only because of this error, they tend to become stressed. When there is a bug in your program, what happens? The program doesn't get executed and you don't get the output. Similarly, there are certain bugs that are sitting in our mind which tend to make us more vulnerable to that stress. So today I'm going to enlist 12 different kind of thinking errors. So at the end of the session, you'll be taking home this 12 thinking errors. Next time when you get stressed out, you'll be able to think whether I am making any one of these thinking errors. Okay, so we will jump into the thinking errors. The next slide, please. This is the first thinking error, my friends. So looking at this picture, you might be able to see that the stick figure is looking at a small thing and it is magnifying into something big in its mind. So the first thinking error is what we call as maximizing or catastrophizing. Okay, say we tend to think about the worst possible outcome in our mind. This is a form of thinking error. Say something goes wrong in your life. Don't you think about the worst possible outcome that might happen? Say your father or mother is supposed to come back to house by 8 o'clock in the evening. but he or she hasn't turned up from work by 8 o'clock, and you're trying to reach out to your parent through your mobile phone, and the mobile phone is not reachable, what kind of thought tends to come to your mind? What kind of thoughts tend to come? You might be thinking in terms of extremes. Probably the mobile is switched off, the battery went off, and the car got stuck somewhere, and your parent is not able to reach you. But sometimes you might be thinking in terms of accident ஆயிருக்குமோ, we tend to think in terms of extremes. You have failed in one subject, you got very low scores, you got very low grade in one subject, you might be thinking in terms of extremes. What will happen? You might be having a boyfriend or a girlfriend. You picked up a very nasty fight with your boyfriend or girlfriend. What you might be thinking, what kind of thoughts you might be generating? Oh my God, this relationship is done. இதுக்கு மேல அவ்வளவுதான், பிரேக்கப்ல தான் போய் முடிய போகுதுன்னு நீங்க திங்க் பண்றதுக்கு வாய்ப்பு இருந்துட்டு இருக்கு. This catastrophizing tends to lead you to a lot of stress. So this is one common thinking error that we human beings tend to make, thinking in terms of extremes. So we have to decatastrophize. We shouldn't think so in so much of we have to look at less catastrophizing explanation. Okay, we have to think, okay, maybe they got stuck in the traffic, maybe the mobile is not reachable. Okay, I flunked in one examination, it doesn't mean that I'm going to flunk in the semester. Okay, it's one nasty fight with my boyfriend, it's one nasty fight with my girlfriend, it doesn't mean it's the end of the relationship. So we shouldn't think in terms of extremes. Thinking in terms of extremes can lead to immense stress in us. So one thing is, first thinking error is catastrophizing. So you have to, if you spot yourself catastrophizing, and if you are perceiving, if you're feeling some stress, start decatastrophizing. Think about what other alternate things that I can think about. What are the alternate explanations for this situation? So that is one thing you have to think about. So please go to the next slide. You have a devil and an angel down here. This is another thinking error. It is called as dichotomous thinking or all or nothing thinking. All or nothing thinking or dichotomous thinking. Or else we can even call it as thinking in terms of extremes. Some people tend to think in terms of extremes, and some people don't tolerate even a bit of negativity in their life. They always want life to be in black and white. நான் வந்து 10 விஷயம் பண்றேன், if I'm doing 10 things, all the 10 things have to go right. Even if one thing goes wrong, I will become stressful. I will start labeling myself as a failure. If I plan 10 outing with somebody, with my friend, all the 10 outing have to be a bash, or else I'll feel like a failure. This is another thinking error that we often tend to make, thinking in terms of extremes. Say I get 10 GPA in most of the subjects, but then I end up getting 8 GPA in one particular subject. How would you feel? Oh my God, what have I done? அப்படிங்கிற மாதிரி இருக்குமா? அப்படி இருந்ததுன்னா you're making dichotomous thinking. Life is not always black and white. It's always in shades of gray. It's not like all the time it can be good. Yes, certain times, certain bad things can creep into our life. So this is another thinking error we unconsciously tend to make. Everything goes right and something bad comes in. We become very upset because we don't want bad things in our life, but then it is inevitable. Life cannot be in dichotomy. It cannot be all good, it cannot be all bad. It always has to be in a mixture. It always comes in shades of gray. So that is something we have to be open towards. We have to be open towards uncertainty. We should be able to accept certain uncertainties in our life. Okay. So the next slide, please. This is one of my favorite thinking errors because like I see a lot of people making this error and getting stressed out. Right now the time is 10:14. Can you all tell what will happen at 11 a.m. this morning? Yes, there is a plan. There is a plan for how this whole day is going to go by. But can you precisely tell me what will happen at 10:45, or else can you tell me what I will be talking at 10:30, or else how my emotion, how my mood will be at 10:30, or else can you tell how your mood and how your thoughts will be at 10:30? We cannot. We cannot predict what is going to happen the very next second. We cannot. Even physicists can't at a quantum level. They cannot. They cannot tell what quantum collapse is going to happen. But we human beings all the time want to know how our future is going to be, and we keep on predicting how the future is going to be. The next month is going to be like this, and we get stressed out. The next year is going to be like this, and we get stressed out. This is how my relationship is going to be with my father and mother in the upcoming days, and we get stressed out. And this is how my relationship is going to be with whomever, friend, boyfriend, girlfriend, anybody for that matter. And we get stressed out. So this thinking error is called as fortune telling. This is the third thinking error. First, we saw catastrophizing, thinking in terms of extreme. Next, we saw thinking in terms of black and white. And now we are talking about fortune telling. Don't ever try to keep forecasting. See, we have to anticipate and we have to be prepared for our future. No doubt. Yes, we as engineers, we are supposed to be prepared for the future. Yes, we are studying so that we will be more prepared for the future, no doubt. But then when it comes to our personal life, especially when it comes to interpersonal relationships, we shouldn't go on predicting. Yes, we have to make a plan, and yes, and we have to be in the present. We shouldn't go on forecasting, and we shouldn't get stressed out. So next time, if you feel yourself stressing out about the future, tell yourself that you are forecasting, and forecasting or fortune telling is a thinking error, and you are supposed to stop doing that thinking error. There is no point about going on thinking about the future over and over and over again, because nobody can exactly tell how the future is going to be. We have anticipated few contingencies and we have made plan for that. Okay, எனக்கு டைம் பத்தாம இருக்கிறதுக்கு சான்சஸ் இருக்கு, அதனால நான் இந்த மாதிரி பிளான் பண்ணிப்பேன் அப்படிங்கிறது தான் பண்ண முடியும். But then you shouldn't go on thinking about how you're going to manage your time over and over and over again. You might anticipate for your project presentation, these are the kind of questions you might be getting. But then you shouldn't go on forecasting and being worried about it. So fortune telling is, my friends, something that you need to avoid. The next slide, please. This is another one of my favorite thinking error. Say, I will give you one example. Every morning you tend to wish one professor. You walk by the corridor and the professor passes by you, or else your principal passes by you and you wish your principal. Every morning the professor or the principal tends to wish you back. We will keep the professor for that example. And the professor நீங்க எப்பவுமே wish பண்ணுவீங்க, the professor உங்களுக்கு wish பண்ணுவாங்க. But one particular morning, that professor frowns at you, or else the professor doesn't look at you or looks at you and turns away and walks away. எப்பவுமே காலையில சிரிச்சு விஷ் பண்றவங்க அன்னைக்கு வந்துட்டு பார்த்துட்டு கொஞ்சம் தலையை குனிச்சிட்டு போயிடுறாங்க. He or she looks down. How would you feel? How would you feel? You might feel a bit jittery. Nana irundana ayyo netha sodapi vechitano. Have I done something wrong yesterday? This thought will naturally pass through my mind. Or else is the professor angry with me for somebody? This thought can pass by my mind. So this thinking error is called as mind reading. Mind reading can lead to a lot of stress. Can we read somebody's mind? Can you read my mind right now? Can you tell what kind of thoughts are running in my mind? Maybe you can predict, you might make some assumptions based on my facial cues. You might be able to make some assumption. But can you accurately tell me what is running in my mind? Very hard, and it's very impossible. But we human beings tend to get stressed out by thinking about what the other person might be thinking. இவங்க மனசுல என்ன திங்க் பண்ணிருக்காங்கங்கறத யோசிச்சு நம்ம ஸ்ட்ரெஸ் ஆயிட்டே இருப்போம் இல்லையா? நம்ம அம்மா அப்பா இதுதான் நினைக்கிறாங்களா, நம்ம ப்ரொஃபசர் இதுதான் நினைக்கிறாங்களா, என்னோட ஃப்ரெண்ட்ஸ் இதுதான் நினைக்கிறாங்களா? We tend to assume lot of things. We tend to shape our behavior assuming that this is what this person is thinking. It's not just we get stressed about. We also shape our behavior, not just the emotion. நம்மளுடைய நடவடிக்கைகளையே நம்மளுடைய assumption பேஸ் பண்ணி நம்ம இது பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கோம். This is a very poor interpersonal skill. So we have to overcome it. At your age, yes, I used to do a lot of it, but then slowly I have worked through it and I have come over it. How to come over it? Having an open conversation. Having an open conversation. Sir, are you upset about something? Are you angry with me? Or did I do something? Amma, did I do something? Appa, did I do something? Appa, is this what is running in your mind? Hey Macha, hey Machi, is this what is running in your mind? Having an open conversation is very, very, very essential. So we as human beings, at least at this point, we have to overcome this mind reading thing. Never tend to mind read anybody. It's very much impossible. You can only come near to something, but then you will never be able to correctly get what is going on in somebody's mind, and it can lead to a lot of stress. Okay, so never do mind reading. Please go to the next slide. Okay, this is called as emotional reasoning. You might be preparing for your interviews. You might be preparing for a lot of competitive exams, right? In that, you might have come across the topic called as logical reasoning. Okay, logical reasoning, quantitative reasoning, logical reasoning. There is a logic in it. If train started at this junction and this started at this junction, and these are coming at this particular speed, when they will meet, இதெல்லாம் வந்துட்டு லாஜிக்கலா நம்மனால மேத்தமேட்டிக்கலா சொல்றதுக்கு முடியும். This is called as logical reasoning. Okay, even in all your let it be in your circuit branches or non-circuit branches, there is a logic between how things operate. There is also something called as emotional reasoning. So logical reasoning is one thing, and we have something called as emotional reasoning. Say there is a decision to be made. How would you make a decision? By seeing at all the alternatives that are available. How would you solve the problem? Looking at all the other possible solutions. I will give you a very simple example. You go to a mobile shop. You go to a mobile shop to purchase a new mobile, and there is mobile A and there is mobile B. இது ரெண்டுல நீங்க எதை செலக்ட் பண்ணுவீங்க? How are you going to select either mobile A or mobile B? You will have a lot of price பார்ப்பேன், அதோட processor speed பார்ப்பேன், memory பார்ப்பேன், அதோட screen resolution பார்ப்பேன், அதோட aesthetics பார்ப்பேன். You will have a lot of criteria and you will tend to logically make a decision. If you are evaluating the pros and cons and making a decision, that is a logical decision. But if you are just going by your emotion, எனக்கு மொபைல் A பார்க்கறப்ப சந்தோஷமா இருக்குது, I feel very happy looking at mobile A, so I'm going to go with mobile A. That is called as emotional reasoning. Okay, going by your emotion. Or else I will give you one very offbeat casual example. say you are in a, assume that you're in a relationship, or else assume that somebody else is in a relationship. Say a boy is in a relationship with a girl, and this boy goes into the classroom, and this girl is having a hearty laugh with another boy. Ahahan jolly இன்னொரு பையன் கூட சிரிச்சிட்டு இருக்காங்க. So what will happen to this boy? இந்த பையனுக்கு என்ன வரும்? உடனே வந்து இவங்க ரெண்டு பேரும் ஒரு வேளை ஒரு ரிலேஷன்ஷிப் எக்ஸ்ப்ளோர் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்காங்களோ அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு வரும். ஏன்? Because instinctively he felt a bit jealous, and because of this jealousy he started feeling that way. So based on our emotion, we tend to make a lot of decisions. We tend to start reasoning out. Why you are making this decision? Because I feel that way. நிறைய இடங்கள்ல எனக்கு இன்னைக்கு வந்துட்டு இது பண்ணலாம்னு சொல்லி தோணல, எனக்கு என்னமோ இன்னைக்கு வந்து ஒரு மாதிரி நெகட்டிவான எமோஷன் இருந்துட்டு இருக்கு. So let us not go ahead with this decision. These are all emotional reasoning. So putting it in very simple terms, if you are making decisions, if you are solving problems just based on your emotions, then you are doing a lot of emotional reasoning. And that, my friends, can lead to a lot of stress because it's not logical. Later, you might feel that it's not working best for you. எனக்கு மொபைல் ஏ பாக்குறப்போ எனக்கு நல்லா பிடிச்சு சந்தோஷமா இருந்தது, அதனால நான் மொபைல் ஏ சூஸ் பண்ணேன்னு வந்துட்டேன். பட் லேட்டர் ஆன் if it is not fitting your requirements, you are going to get stressed out. So emotional reasoning is another thing that you have to avoid. Okay, that's another thinking error. The next slide, please. Oh, this is another thing. You can see the stick figure. The stick figure is standing in midst of a flock of sheep. It is looking at one sheep, and the sheep is black, and it is presuming that the rest of the sheep are also going to be black. This is called as overgeneralization. We also tend to make a lot of overgeneralization. ஒரு விஷயத்தை பார்த்துட்டு எல்லா விஷயமும் இப்படிதான் இருக்கும். I'm going to do, say I'm going inside a lab. A semester is starting and you have a lab this semester, and you go and do the first experiment, and that experiment is not so comfortable for you, or else you're not getting the required outcome. Then you might be overgeneralizing, assuming this whole semester is going to be stressful. ஐயோ இந்த ஒரு எக்ஸ்பெரிமெண்ட் வரல, நீ இருக்கிற இந்த லேப்ல இருக்கக்கூடிய நீ மிச்ச 11 எக்ஸ்பெரிமெண்ட்டோ அல்லது 12 எக்ஸ்பெரிமெண்ட்டோ 15 எக்ஸ்பெரிமெண்ட்டோ கஷ்டமா தான் இருக்க போகுது. Or else you are going to meet a group of people, and you are interacting with one person, and that one person is not very comfortable with you, or else you are not very comfortable with that person, and you tend to assume that everybody in this group is going to be this way. That is also called as overgeneralization. Overgeneralization can lead to a lot of stress, because then you start working out your whole mind based on that overgeneralization. இந்த ஒரு பர்சனை பார்த்துட்டோ அல்லது ஒரு சிச்சுவேஷனை பார்த்துட்டோ எல்லா சிச்சுவேஷனும் இப்படிதான் இருக்கும்னு சொல்லி நம்ம அதுக்கு தகுந்தாப்புல பிளான் பண்ண ஆரம்பிச்சா என்ன ஆக போகுது? We are going to get overwhelmed. We are going to get stressed like anything. So never overgeneralize. Okay, this is one incident, this is one situation, this is one person. Let me also look into a few more people and let me come to a conclusion. So that is another thing that you have to be very conscious and very cautious about. Okay, overgeneralization பண்ணவே கூடாது. நீங்க overgeneralization பண்ணுவீங்கன்னா, think about if you have ever made dosa in your life, think about the first dosa that you made. It would have been a disaster. It would have been a dosa disaster, but then subsequently you would have been able to do better dosas. So based on one situation, say even if it is going to be placement, if you haven't made through in the first company or in the first interview, don't overgeneralize. Don't overgeneralize your failure. ஐயோ ஒரு இன்டர்வியூ போச்சு, நீ எல்லாமே இப்படிதான் இருக்க போகுது அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு ஓவர் ஜெனரலைஸ் பண்ணாதீங்க. பண்ணினீங்கன்னா you will be overwhelmed. Okay, so that is just one situation. Probably the rest of situations are going to be very favorable for you. Okay, please go to the next slide. This is another thinking error that we tend to make. It's called as labeling. Here you can see the stick figure labeling himself or herself as a failure, or somebody else has labeled him as a failure. We also tend to fix ourselves or fit ourselves into one label. உங்களை பத்தி சொல்லுங்க, ஒரு வார்த்தையில சொல்லுங்க அப்படின்னு சொன்னா உங்களால சொல்ல முடியுமா? Would you be able to define yourself or describe yourself within one word? I have seen a lot of people defining or describing themselves in one particular label. And if I ask you to define a person, it could be Professor X, Professor Y, Professor Z. Or else if I ask you to define your mother or father, if I ask you to define your brother or sister, your friend or your boyfriend or girlfriend, would you be able to define them in one particular tag? I have seen a lot of people defining them in one particular tag. But can human beings or can situations be defined in one particular tag? ஒரே ஒரு லேபிள்னால ஒருத்தரையோ ஒரு குரூப்பையோ ஒரு சிச்சுவேஷனையோ நம்ம லேபிள் பண்ண முடியுமா? Actually, we do it for our convenience. It helps us to make better decision. Say Professor X is an angry person, Professor Y is an easygoing person, friend X is a very annoying person, friend Y is a very shy person. These labels help us make better decisions, easy decisions, not better decisions, easy decisions, but it doesn't help us make better decisions. ஓகே, ஈஸியா நம்ம வந்துட்டு அவங்க கோபக்காரங்க அதனால அவங்க கிட்ட காஷியஸா இருக்கணும் அப்படிங்கிற மாதிரி யோசிக்கிற ஹெல்ப் பண்ணலாம். But it's never going to be helpful. At the same time, if you are labeling yourself with one particular tag, I'm not good at this, I'm not good at that. If you are going to put a tag, I'm damn sure there are so many tags that are hanging around your neck. You might have ascribed so many tags to you unconsciously. If I do, there is something called as implicit perception test, implicit association test. If I do that psychological test with you, I'll be able to decipher the labels that you have given to yourself. What does those labels do? If it is going to be a positive label, fine. I'm perfect. I'm efficient. I'm a good problem solver. I'm a good decision maker. Fine. If you are going to have positive labels, it's fine. But then if you are going to have negative labels for you, it's going to pull you down. So see, there is something called as, in psychology, we call as core schema. If somebody comes to us with depression, எனக்கு சோகமா இருக்குது, என் லைஃப்ல எதுவுமே என்னால ஹாப்பியா எடுத்துக்க முடியலன்னு யாராச்சும் எங்க கிட்ட வந்தாங்க அப்படின்னா, we will be talking with that person over sessions. At the end of few sessions, we will identify something called as a core schema. What is that core schema is? That person would have defined themselves in one particular word. I am dash. We all would have that label. So my friends, please avoid those labels. If you are making na ipdi enak idu varadu, enak andha situation face pandrak mudiyadu, if you are making such labels to yourself, please tear those labels today itself. It will lead to a lot of stress. It will prevent you from facing those situations. So avoid those labeling. That is one important thing we have to do in stress management. We shouldn't label ourselves with anything. The next slide, please. This is another important thinking error. We tend to make, if you see this smiley is very angry or very frustrated, and the words must, should, have to, need to, or written around it. These are all rigid expectations that we tend to have. Please don't, we human beings, in the class 90 plus people are here right now. If I ask all you 90 plus people, you would have expectation about yourself, right? Ungala patti ungalku or expectation irukum, and you will have expectation about people around you, and you will have expectation about your future. இந்த மூணு இல்லாதவங்க இந்த குரூப்ல யாராச்சும் இருக்கீங்களான்னு சொல்லுங்க. யாராச்சும் இருந்தீங்கன்னா கை தூக்குங்க. மேபி அட் த எண்ட் ஆஃப் த செஷன் யூ கேன் லெட் மீ நோ. இந்த மூணு எனக்கு கிடையாது, இந்த மூணுல ஒண்ணு கிடையாதுன்னு யாராச்சும் சொல்ல முடியுமா? சொல்ல முடியாது. Every one of us, every person who is in a sound mind would have expectations from about themselves or about from themselves, expectation about people around them, and expectation about their future. But if you are going to make these expectations very rigid, நான் இப்படிதான் இருந்தாகணும், I should be like this, people around me should be like this, and my future should be like this அப்படிங்கிற மாதிரி வெச்சிட்டீங்க அப்படினா, it is going to be very difficult because it takes away flexibility from you. It takes away flexibility from you because things cannot be the way you expect. If things go up, if things are deviating even a bit from your expectation, you would not be able to solve your problem. So make preferences. I prefer myself to be like this. I prefer people around me to be like this. I prefer my future to be like this. When you make a lot of these preference statements, even if something goes wrong, you will be able to take an alternate course of action. I prefer to go through route A, but route A is not working for me. So I will be able to change to route B. I should go by route A. If route A is not working, you will feel very dejected. You will feel very stressed. You will not be able to solve problem. Engineers are supposed to have certain skills, essential skills like problem solving and decision making. I'm not talking about in engineering context alone. I'm talking about even in interpersonal context. உறவுகளுக்குள்ளேயும் டிசிஷன் எடுக்கிறதுக்கும் ப்ராப்ளம் சால்வ் பண்றதுக்கும் கான்ஃப்ளிக்ட் ரிசால்வ் பண்ற ஸ்கில்ஸ் நமக்கு ரொம்ப ரொம்ப அவசியம். as engineers we are taught about all the other technical skills, but in engineering college we might not be taught so much about all these soft skills, but we are supposed to inculcate it. And for that you should not have rigid expectations. If you have rigid expectations, it's going to be very difficult. You will not be able to handle disappointment, and you will not be able to overcome that disappointment, and you will not be able to solve the problem further. So don't have rigid expectations at any cost. The next slide, please. This is called as mind filtering. Say, what happens is, say if you are having a fight with your father, you are going to your father with a request. Appa enakku idu venu, you are going to your father telling that you want some particular thing, and your father says no. What are the things you will go and tell your mother? Probably you might tell, father said no to this, father said no to that, father said no to x, father said no to y அப்படினு சொல்லிட்டு எதுக்கெல்லாம் பாருங்க, இது எதுக்குமே நீங்க வந்துட்டு எனக்கு வந்து ஓகேவே சொல்ல மாட்டீங்கறீங்க அப்படினு சொல்லிட்டு we will tend to see all the situations where he has denied your request, where he has rejected your request, right? This is called as mind filtering. Mind filtering is where if one negative event happens, our mind tends to think of all the other negative events associated with that particular person or that group of people. உடனே வந்துட்டு ஆனா வந்து அந்த person, maybe your father has approved, he might have approved lot of other requests that you had. He might have said okay to lot of other things that you wanted from him. But what happens is, if you are making the thinking error of mental filtering, you will only think of the negative things. The professor என்ன இதுக்கு திட்டினாங்க, அதுக்கு திட்டினாங்க, அதுக்கு திட்டினாங்க, என் கேர்ள் ஃப்ரெண்ட் இதுக்கு சண்டை போட்டா, அதுக்கு சண்டை போட்டா, என் பாய் ஃப்ரெண்ட் இதுக்கு சண்டை போட்டா, அதுக்கு சண்டை போட்டா, என் ஃப்ரெண்ட் இதுக்கு சண்டை போட்டா, அதுக்கு சண்டை போட்டா அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு we will only be able to think of all the other negative things. If you catch yourself listing the past mistakes that person has made, please remember that you are doing the thinking error of mental filtering. Stop there. Okay, my mind, dear mind, you are making a thinking error. Think of all the other positive things also have happened with this relationship. என்னென்ன பாசிட்டிவ் திங்ஸ் நடந்ததோ அதையும் பாரு அப்படின்னு சொல்லி சொல்ல வேண்டியது ரொம்ப ரொம்ப அவசியமான ஒரு விஷயம். Okay, this can happen with your academic thing also. If you are failing on one thing, your brain might only filter about all the failures that you have faced. It might slip out the successes that you have made. As seen in this picture, the mind is only filtering the negative things and it is letting out the positive things. So if you are listing out the negative things alone, think about the positive thing. At the same time, while making decision, if you are only thinking about the positives, tell your brain, stop. Think about the cons also. Pros ayum paakano, cons ayum paakano. Yadiyo onna mattu paathona, we are going to make a disastrous decision and later it is going to lead to a lot of stress. உங்களுக்கு ஒரு டிசிஷன் பிடிச்சிருக்குதுங்கறங்காட்டி அதுல இருக்கக்கூடிய positives மட்டும் list out பண்றது, this is also a form of thinking error. You're also supposed to think of the negatives. And the other side, if you're only thinking about the negatives, it's going to be disastrous. You have to think about the positives that happened in the past. Okay, so mental filtering is very bad. Having a balanced outlook is very, very essential. The next slide, please. Yeah, this is a very important thinking error. This is called as disqualifying the positives, or it's basically disqualifying. What happens is, we people, some of us, it doesn't happen with a lot, some of us tend to reject the positive things people tend to tell about us. ஓ இது சூப்பரா இந்த ப்ராஜெக்ட் பண்ணிருக்க அப்படிங்கிற பட்சத்துல என்ன ஆகும் அப்படின்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா, we tend to tell, anybody can do this, இது ஒரு பெரிய விஷயம் கிடையாது, anybody would be able to do this. We tend to disqualify the positive remarks that we get from people. This is also very, very bad, because if you are going to reject the small little positives that happen in your life, you are never going to have a great image about yourself. If you are not going to have a great image about yourself, you are going to feel very stressed in a very stressful environment. So next time, if somebody gives you a positive stroke, please accept it the way you also accept the negative strokes that people give you. Okay, so the next time if something positive happens, just don't disqualify it, accept it also. Accept it the way you accept bad things also. இதெல்லாம் எனக்கு நடந்ததே இல்ல சார் அப்படின்னு சொல்லலாம். It doesn't happen to a lot of people. I'm telling this because one or two might be making this thinking error. That's why I'm putting it across to you. The next slide, please. Okay, this is the 11th one. We will be having one more thing. This is called as poor frustration tolerance. We in the modern era, especially in the digital era, what has happened is, if I do something, I need immediate output அப்படிங்கிற ஒரு மனநிலை நமக்குள்ள நிறைய வர ஆரம்பிச்சிருச்சு. Because like that's how things happen. 20 years back, we cannot communicate the way we are communicating it now. 30 years back, it was even bad. If you're supposed to call somebody somewhere, you have to make a STD call, or you have to make something called as a trunk call. I remember doing that as a child. You might not even have heard about it. You might have not even heard about switchboard communication, switchboard telephone calls. So during that period, the frustration tolerance was much, much higher, but now everything is happening a bit fast. So our frustration tolerance has started to come down. எனக்கு வந்து இமீடியட்டா நான் ₹1 இன்னைக்கு போட்டேன்னா நாளைக்கே எனக்கு ₹1 வரணும் அப்படிங்கிற அந்த மனநிலை வந்து நமக்கு ரொம்ப வர ஆரம்பிச்சிருச்சு. பட் world doesn't operate that way. Lot of things doesn't operate that way. Say for example, if you want to become an engineer, you have to endure for 4 years. If it is sandwich course, you have to endure for 5 years. So only after so many years of tolerance, you will become an engineer from an engineering college. That's how things operate. And that's how things operate in lot of situations. Maybe you are putting lot of hard work, but then if you are not getting the output, don't get frustrated. You will get a cumulative output after some time. So developing frustration tolerance is very, very essential for stress management. If you are going to get bumped act up very quickly, then you are going to get stressed out very soon. After a few days, I will get the desired output. That frustration tolerance, my friends, we are supposed to have. The last thinking error. Please go to the next slide. This is the last thinking error. I have listed only 12 important pertinent thinking errors. There are a lot of other thinking errors also, but then we will stick on to these 12 thinking errors alone. So the last thinking error is called as personalizing. This again, only very few people might be doing. If something goes wrong in their life, they might become stressed, thinking that idu ennala ipdi aachu appdin solli think panni stress ஆகிறதுக்கு வாய்ப்பு இருந்துருக்கு. Say they are doing something as a group and something goes wrong in the group. It's a group project and something goes wrong in the group project. This person might start personalizing. Oh, maybe I should have done more. Maybe I should have put in more effort. Maybe this is happening in the house because of me. Maybe I didn't do it correctly and that's why it has happened. Personalizing, putting all the blame on you, can also lead to a lot of stress. Some of you might be doing this thinking error. Some of you might be doing this misattribution. So next time, if you ever see yourself blaming you alone for something happened in your life, think about the other factors that has contributed to that failure. Okay, it could be group in mattum kedayadu, taniyavume vandu if you are doing something and that thing has failed, and if you start blaming yourself for that, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, make a pie chart and think about what are the other factors that would have contributed to this failure. Doing that, you will be able to get a realistic picture about how much you have contributed to that failure. There could have been other things. Maybe the material was not available. Maybe the lab was overcrowded that day. Maybe the bus came a bit late that day. There could be a lot of other factors for the mishap. You are supposed to account all the other factors also so that you will not get overwhelmed. You will not personalize and feel so much stressed out about it. Okay. So these are the things that I wanted to tell you, my friends. So once again, I will reiterate and I will conclude my presentation on stress management. And you can pose your questions to me if you have any questions. The first thing is, as the topic goes by, stress management, what is stress? Any change in your life, any change in your environment that causes some kind of physiological strain as well as psychological strain. Physiological strain varum, vayatha kalakum, talavali varum, lot of you might have a pounding heart, pada 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 and varum. All these changes might happen. Psychologically, you might have a lot of emotions. You might feel frustrated, you might feel fearful, you might feel angry. So stress is anything in the environment that strains you psychologically and physiologically is stress. Next, is stress required? Yes, optimum stress is required for you to function efficiently. Stress illena namakku bore aayittu poidum. Romba stress irundhana it could be detrimental to our mental and physical health. Now, coming to the psychological aspect, we should understand how our mind works. I said mind is an organ, but then it is not a physical organ per se. It's a product of another organ called as a brain. And our mind has three components: thoughts, emotions, and behavior. Thoughts tend to influence your emotion and behavior and the mechanism picture. And why we get stressed? Because we tend to make certain thinking errors. I have listed down 12 thinking errors. Next time, my friends, if you are getting stressed out, you can do two things. One is you can change the stressor, which cannot be done in most of the cases. What you can do is change the way you think so that you will be able to handle the stress. How to change the way you think? Avoid these thinking errors. Change these thinking errors. If you see yourself catastrophizing, if you see yourself thinking in terms of extremes, don't think in terms of extremes. If you see yourself thinking about the future and worrying, don't. You cannot forecast. I can only plan for it to a limited extent. I will not. If you see yourself reading somebody else's mind, remind yourself that you cannot read somebody else's mind. If you are listing only negative things, think that there are other positive things also. Likewise, countering and counteracting on all these 12 thinking errors, you can be stress-free. What are the other ways I can de-stress myself? There are a lot of other things. நீங்க காமனா கேட்கக்கூடிய போய் ஒரு மூவி பாருங்க, யோகா பண்ணுங்க, எக்ஸசைஸ் பண்ணுங்க. Yes, these things do help you to manage your stress. I'm not telling you no. Exercise பண்ணீங்கன்னா you will feel de-stressed, listening to music, going out with your friends. Yes, these things help. These things do help. But then when you come back to the situation, that stressor is going to sit there. The project is going to sit there. So changing your thinking pattern is only going to effectively help you manage stress. So I will stop my presentation down here. If you are having any particular question, if you are having any particular situation in your mind, you can ask me. I'll be more than happy to answer you.
We had a wonderful insight on the topic stress management, which is the need of the year. Thank you so much for enlightening us on this topic and sparing your valuable time from your busy schedule, sir.
Now the session is open for questions. Participants, if you have any questions, please raise your hand so that you can ask sir, or leave your questions in the chat box.
Mr. Kirti Bhushan has raised his hand.
Sir, yes, sir. Good morning, sir. So you're telling about coping strategies, right, sir? Sir, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, Mr. Kirti.
So you are talking about the coping strategies. Like I have heard that expect the stress. So expecting the stress will reduce the impact of stress. So how is it should we be always thinking like எது நடந்தாலும் நடக்கும், எப்போ வேணா எது நடக்கலாம், like that? Should we have that kind of mentality like always, sir?
Okay, that's a very good question, Mr. Kirti Bhushan. So uncertainty in life is very, very common. Okay, uncertainty இல்லாம வாழ்க்கை போகவே போறது கிடையாது. இங்கதான் நான் வந்துட்டு நான் உங்களுக்கு அந்த மேக்கிங் ரிஜிட் எக்ஸ்பெக்டேஷன்ஸ் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு இருந்தேன் இல்லையா? எஸ், என் வாழ்க்கை ஸ்ட்ரெஸ் ஃப்ரீயா போகணும்னு நான் விரும்புறேன் அப்படிங்கிற கண்ணோட்டம் வச்சுக்கிறது தப்பு கிடையாது. ஆனா என் வாழ்க்கை ஸ்ட்ரெஸ் ஃப்ரீயா தான் இருக்கணும் அப்படிங்கிற மாதிரி வச்சுக்க கூடாது. எஸ், there can be uncertainties in life. If uncertainties come, I have the right kind of resources to manage it. அப்படிங்கிற ஒரு மனப்பக்குவத்தோட போய்க்கிறது ரொம்ப ரொம்ப முக்கியமான ஒரு விஷயம். Stress is going to be there in this world, in this era. Any point of even hunter gatherers had their own stress. So எல்லா நேரத்துலயும் ஸ்ட்ரெஸ்ங்கிறது வரதான் போகுது. But you have to remember, I have the required resources to handle it. அப்படிங்கிற இதை வச்சுக்கிட்டீங்கன்னா போதும். வந்துரும் நினைச்சிட்டு இருந்தோம்னா that itself is going to add up to a lot of anxiety. So you don't have to all the time anticipate stress.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. We have a question from a chat box. So they have asked how to face the challenges in society to overcome the stress, sir.
Okay, this is okay. It's a very broad question. Can you read the question again, please?
Yes, sir. How to face the challenges in society to overcome the stress, sir?
Okay, challenges in society. Okay, இது challengesனா என்ன challenges அப்படிங்கறத என் கொஸ்டினுக்கு வருது. என்ன மாதிரி challenges அப்படிங்கறது if you could specify what challenges exactly it would be great. I don't know where I think I have clicked on something. Sorry, once again. Yeah. So society challenge, I don't know. I really don't know what challenge to specifically talk about. Generally, வந்துட்டு இந்த சொசைட்டியே ஸ்ட்ரெஸ்ஃபுல்லா இருக்குது, இந்த challenges எப்படி மேனேஜ் பண்றது அப்படிங்கிற மாதிரி சொல்றீங்களா, அல்லது சொசைட்டி உங்க மேல போடக்கூடிய ப்ரெஷரை வந்துட்டு சொல்றீங்களா? See, if you are talking about the society posing lot of stress on you, lot of expectations on you, there are two things that you have to remember. One is like, is my behavior too deviant from what the society is expecting or what is expected out of the society? If your behavior is somewhere deviant from what is expected in the society, then you have to think about changing your behavior. If it is not too deviant from what is expected in the society, you can maintain the status quo and you can go on with it. Okay. If you have any particular incidents in your mind, if you have any particular scenario in your mind, please ask me. சொசைட்டில இருந்து ஸ்ட்ரெஸ் அப்படிங்கிறது ரொம்ப ப்ராடான ஒரு கொஸ்டினா இருக்குது. If you have any specific scenario in your mind, you can ask me.
Okay, sir. We have another question with us, sir.
Yes.
How to ensure that stressful situations in our personal life don't affect our work performance, sir?
Oh, that's great. That's a very good thing. This is once again that we learn over the time. It's a skill called as compartmentalization. One thing is, once again, it's because of a rigid expectation. We want things to be resolved. Then if you have an expectation that என்னோட பர்சனல் லைஃப்ல நடந்தது வந்து ரிசால்வ் ஆனாதான் நான் வந்து பெட்டரா இருப்பேன் அப்படிங்கிற மாதிரி இருந்ததுன்னா இது வந்து ரொம்ப கஷ்டமான ஒரு விஷயம். This is where we have to have the flexible expectation. Even if things go wrong in my life, it's okay. I will be able to handle it later on அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு ப்ரொஃபஷனல் இதுல மூவ் ஆன் ஆக ஆரம்பிச்சிருங்க. First thing is like you should இப்பவே அந்த frustration tolerance ன்னு சொன்னோம் இல்லையா, அது வளர வளர you will be able to handle this better. Okay, things are not great today, things are not great tomorrow, maybe things will become better in couple of days. So அது வரைக்கும் நான் வெயிட் பண்ணுவேன், அது ரிசால்வ் ஆனாதான் நான் இங்க ஃபோக்கஸ் பண்ணுவேன் அப்படிங்கிற மாதிரியான மனநிலை வச்சுக்க வேண்டாம். அது ஒரு பக்கம் அது இருந்தா இருந்துட்டு போகுது, அது நான் ரிசால்வ் பண்ணிடுவேன். See, first of all, having a good view about your self-efficacy is very, very important. Okay, have confidence in you, have confidence in your ability to handle the situation. Only if you have that confidence, you will be able to move on. சரி, சூழ்நிலை இப்ப சரியில்லை, ஆனா என்னால அதையே சமாளிச்சிட முடியும், என்கிட்ட அந்த ரிசோர்சஸ் இருக்குது, அல்லது என்ன ரிசோர்சஸ் வேணும்னு கண்டுபிடிக்க செய்வேன் அப்படிங்கிற அந்த மனநிலை வச்சுட்டீங்க அப்படின்னா வந்துட்டு you will be able to carry on. வீட்டுல ஒரு சண்டைன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்க, அல்லது வந்து ஃப்ரெண்டு கூட ஒரு சண்டைன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்க, அந்த சண்டையை வந்துட்டு என்னால் ரிசால்வ் பண்ண முடியாதுங்கிற நினைப்பு இருந்தாதான் you will get carried on in your professional circumstances. If you have the perception that you will be able to handle it later on, you will not feel so frustrated. And if you are getting anxious also, you will get very stressed out. ஐயோ, இது வந்து என் கையை மீறி போயிடுமோ, என் எல்லாம் மீறி போயிடுமோன்னு நீங்க ஃபோர்காஸ்ட் பண்ண ஆரம்பிச்சிட்டீங்கனாலும் you will get very stressed out. Okay, don't do lot of forecasting and believe in yourself, believe in your ability to problem solve, then you will not feel so overwhelmed. You will be able to compartmentalize. இது வேற அது வேற, அது நடக்கிறப்ப நான் அதை போய் பார்த்துப்பேன் அப்படிங்கிற மாதிரி. And there are certain situations which will influence. Say you have gone through a loss in வச்சுக்கோங்க, you have gone through a major loss in your life, that you have to handle it, then only you will be able to come into your professional thing. இப்ப வீட்டுல யாரோ ஒருத்தவங்க வந்துட்டு ஏதோ ஒரு ஆக்சிடென்ட் ஆயிருக்கு அப்படிங்கிறப்போ அதை மறந்துட்டு நான் இதுக்குள்ள வருவேங்கிறதெல்லாம் பாசிபிள் கிடையாது. அதை ஹேண்டில் பண்ணிட்டு தான் இதுக்குள்ள வர முடியும். So it depends on the situation. Yes. Mr. Sabarivel is raising his hand.
Morning, sir.
Good morning.
Sir, first of all, I will give feedback, sir. Talking is very nice, sir. It is self-motivating, sir.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you.
Sir, one question, sir. Sir, by facing the stress in our day-to-day life, how to become a good human being, sir? Is we have any tips to follow a good human being by avoiding stress and all the things? How to become a good human being in life, sir?
Okay, Mr. Shah, this is for everybody. You all must be above 18 years, right? So you have all been here on this earth for 18 years, 19 years, 20 years. Have you ever thought about the value systems that you are following? Have you ever thought about the values and beliefs that you have? Probably you might not. இவ்வளவு நாள் நீங்க வந்து ஒரு நிமிஷம் நின்னு வாட் ஆர் மை வேல்யூஸ், வாட் ஆர் த திங்ஸ் தட் ஐ பிலீவ் இன் அப்படிங்கறத வந்துட்டு யோசிச்சிருக்க மாட்டீங்க. இஃப் ஐ ஆஸ்க் people over here, the 90 plus people over here, to list down 5 of your strengths and 5 of your challenges, 5 weaknesses. Weaknesses-ங்கிற word யூஸ் பண்ணல, challenges-ங்கிற word தான் நான் முக்காவாசி யூஸ் பண்ணுவேன். உங்களுடைய 5 core strengths 5 core weaknesses வந்துட்டு லிஸ்ட் டவுன் பண்ணுங்க அப்படின்னு சொல்லி சொன்னா, probably you might not be immediately able to tell me. But then don't you think it is very important for human beings to know what their strengths and challenges are? So the first thing is, to be a better human being, you should know what your strengths and what your challenges are. So once if you know your strengths, you will be able to build more and more on it, and you will be able to become a better human being. If you know your value system, if you know your belief system, you will be able to build more and more on it and become a better human being. You'll be able to handle stress better. So dear friends, please, at the end of the day, இன்னைக்கு நீங்க இந்த ஃபங்க்ஷன் எல்லாம் முடிச்சிட்டு, இந்த ஹோல் வெபினார் எல்லாம் முடிச்சிட்டு, என்னுடைய 5 strengths என்ன, what am I good at, what people have complimented me for, அப்படின்னு சொல்லி 5 எழுதுங்க. நிறைய வந்துச்சுன்னா it's very good, but any human being will be able to list down at least 5 core strengths and 5 challenges. And what do you believe in, what value systems do you have, what belief system you have-ங்கறத நீங்க எதை நம்புறீங்க, எது வந்துட்டு எப்படிப்பட்ட ஒரு வேல்யூ சிஸ்டம்ஸ் நீங்க ஃபாலோ பண்றீங்கங்கறதையும் ஒரு நிமிஷம் யோசிச்சு பாருங்க. And working on that will definitely make you a better human being, good human being.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for patiently responding to all the questions raised by our audience. Gratitude is a powerful catalyst for happiness. It's the spark that lights a fire of joy in your soul. Now, I call upon Ms. M. Kanishka, Secretary of National Service Team, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Our most beloved chief guest, NSS program officers and student friends, I'm very humbled to be the one making the closing remarks and giving the vote of thanks in such an intellectual virtual gathering. From the depths of our hearts, we thank our chief guest, Mr. Karthikeyaan Shanmugam, who have enlightened our minds with his rejuvenating thoughts. Our gratitude to our college management, principals, and NSS program officers for their constant time and support for organizing the event. And I'm pleased to thank all the students for gracing this occasion with their involved participation. Finally, a big thank you to each one of you who made their webinar event more memorable for all of us. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Kanishka, for your elaborate vote of thanks. We would like to thank all our participants for their enthusiastic participation. Thank you all. Participants, kindly fill the form provided in the chat box with correct name and registration ID. It's for certificate purpose. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ma. Thank you, Kanishka. Thank you. Thank you, sir, for your valuable
Karthikeyaan, sir.
Thank you.
Karthikeyaan, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, sir. You are giving so many tips for us how to release the stress. Okay, it is helpful to our students. Not only students, it is also for us, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, Nandakumar. Anybody is there?
Sir. Sir?
Next.
Sir, next event at 1:50, sir.
Okay. So then 150 க்கு 3 இது அனுப்பிச்சிருக்கீங்க.
Sir, we have 3 panels, sir.
Yeah, okay.
Sir, count அதிகமா இருக்கனால அப்படி வச்சிருக்கோம் சார்.
இல்ல எந்த பேனல் யார் வருவாங்கறதெல்லாம் மென்ஷன் பண்ணிட்டீங்களா? Have you sent information to participant?
Yes, sir. We have sent.
பண்ணியாச்சு சார்.